Welcome to the second episode of the Awaken Men podcast, yet number 2. And we're going to keep going with it here. And, let's see what we're going to talk about today. Daniel, how are you doing today?
Good. I'm excited to do this. It's funny how the first time you do it, you're more nervous, and the second time you get excited. It's because you know what's going to happen now. It's easier on my brain.
We're all pumped up. It's like we're still working out some of the logistics, but hey, I think we're coming out with some good stuff here. I do feel something that's going to help everybody out.
I hope so.
No, we have to know. That's what it's about, right? We have to trust in ourselves and what we can do.
That's true.
Because that is the journey, isn't it? That we have to trust us, because we can rely on everybody else's trust, but when it comes down to, it's our own trust that we have to rely on.
Exactly. Well, that kind of segues. So today I wanted to talk about self-responsibility. It seems to be coming in my experience a lot. So I kind of want to break that down.
All right. I'm kind of curious about that.
Yeah. And what does that mean, right? What are we actually responsible for would be the question. Because I can't be responsible for the sun and the moon and the rain, obviously. No. But what can I control, I guess? It's that age-old thing from AA, wisdom to know what I can't control and, whatever I don't know the whole saying. You think I would know being an addictions counselor, but I forget. I haven't been to enough meetings, obviously. But wisdom to know whatever it is. But the idea that we need to know what we can control and know what we can't control, and the wisdom to know the difference. There it goes. I found it.
There was that it. I don't know. I did one Al-Anon thing, and that was it, because I didn't do anything else after that. I went the whole shamanic route for most of my healing. So I'd never dove into that.
No, I was addictions counselor, so I heard it. So it's, knowing what you can control, knowing what you can't, and the wisdom to know the difference. That's a big saying for in the AA community, or, the anonymous community, which I think is super powerful, because
it has
what you're responsible for.
So now, when you say self-responsibility, I have to ask, does that mean responsibility for everything around us, for ourselves? Or, I guess self-responsibility, I'm taking as in, am I responsible for my actions or how somebody feels? Are we talking like codependency type stuff also? Or what are you talking about? Because codependency also is about somebody just trying to be responsible for somebody else. So how would you be responsible? I forgot that terminology. I'm sorry. I'm not a counselor. I apologize.
No, it's fine. That's why I want to unpack it, to know what it means, because we're not responsible for other people. And I think there's a big relief when that's the case. We're just responsible for what we do. And doesn't mean we don't help other people, but that's comes from us. Can we control other people? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I always heard this from one of my coaches that I took. He says, how can I control you? I'm not that strong enough. And not in the negative connotation. It's just that to have the power to control somebody, you're talking about a lot of power. So to think that we can control somebody, the only thing I guess I could say is you could manipulate them, but you're still not controlling them. You're just using tactics to do things a certain way. To me, that's not control.
Right. You're giving them an idea, and then you're seeing if they want to take it. So
yes.
If you're selling something, you can't control if they buy it, but you can control your way of presenting it.
Correct. Oh, I like that. I hadn't heard it that way, but yes, that's right. And in the shamanic route, I've always, I was in a ceremony one time, and I was going into a real deep process, and there was a pain on my side because sometimes it's very experiential in those shamanic ceremonies, and I'm going in my pain, and I go, oh, this hurts. It's like taking, and it was a one-on-one session, and the facilitator was coming to me and going, are you okay? I go, oh, you got to take it out. You got to take it out. And this is at the beginning of the ceremony. And then he was going, no, I don't feel guided to do anything with that. No, no, no. And then, so the whole ceremony happens. And at the tail end, it's like, he says, okay, I'm ready for you to take it out. And I go, no, you're not going to take it out. That's my stuff to deal with. So it comes down to what you're talking about, the responsibility. It's because if we have our stuff, it's our stuff to deal with. It's nobody else's stuff to deal with. I mean, we can talk about it, but really when it comes down to, we have control of our own answers. And we can control that aspect of us. So to me, that comes back to self-responsibility. I'm responsible for my own emotions, for my own feelings and that kind of stuff. That's what I get to.
Yeah. I mean, not looking for a savior, not looking for, we talked about that last week, chasing something. And to me, that's almost avoiding self-responsibility. I'm going to go find the healer, the person, the book that's really going to help me, which is fine to ask for help. But at some point, we got to be like, okay, I need to have my own thoughts and have my own way of being and be responsible for myself.
Yeah, I feel that there's a transition, at least for me. I could see, excuse me, I could see a transition where I was asking for help and I came to terms and came to discover that really what I'm looking for a guide to help me move through my stuff. So like if I would go to you and as a psychologist or a therapist, it's like I would be looking for you to guide me to my answer, or at least guide me in some way by asking me probing questions. And that's what I have come down to. So kudos on you for, I love the work that you do like that.
Yeah. And I think that's so important to know, even if you're a teacher. So I'm moving more into the teaching realm. I was more in the therapist realm. But now I'm teaching, so that's even a different thing. You're giving out ideas, so then you're starting to give out information, but then you're not responsible for what people do with it. And that's really, really, like sometimes as a teacher, you go, I'm going to teach you about diet, and then I'm responsible if you get healthy. But I'm not responsible if you get healthy. I just put out the ideas. It's your responsibility to use them.
Yes,
I'm not taking that on.
Yeah, I mean, all you're doing, you're providing us the tools. You're providing the tools. Sort of like when I go to a shaman or somebody comes to me for some type of shamanic work, it's like we're just giving them the tools. I mean, I even go as far sometimes as teaching them if I feel guided to teach them. And almost everybody, I feel guided to teach them what I'm doing. Granted, some people will take it and some people don't, but I'm okay with that. I just got to make sure that I'm comfortable with what I've given out and felt that I met my responsibility to them in that sense. So that way I don't feel like I'm trying to control them to my answers. I want to give them the tools to find their own answers.
Yeah. And I think as men, we want to fix things. That's like innate. Maybe it's conditioning, maybe it's just what we are, and I don't think it's bad, but we want to fix people, we want to fix things, we want to solve the problem. And really, sometimes we just need to shut up. Like, we got to let people go through their stuff, And I know for me, my pattern was with women, and I noticed this as a therapist, I would give them more advice than men. And I was like, why am I doing this? But I think that's just what I saw, but I know I was aware of me doing it, and it doesn't work. It just...
No, yeah. I know exactly what you mean because sometimes I have that urge where it's like, oh, I have to fix this. Even within, especially around my family, it's like, oh, look, I see this. And it's like, no, Mario, shut up. That's not for you to do that. It's like, just stay quiet. And I have to really feel into the situation, and 99.9% of the time, you're supposed to let it be, at least in my situations. And at other times of that 0.1%, I do feel what I'm guided to say. And sometimes that sinks in, but I have no control over that. And once again, it's about their being responsible for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I even think, I have the belief system that we're training to be spirit guides in some ways. And sometimes we are guides for people, same words, just different things. And we have to let people fall. We can't fix it and make things better. And even on a society level, I'm learning that more and more. Like, letting people crumble is so important. Like, I see that consistently from being an addictions therapist in general. Like, if we save people from being homeless or getting arrested or going through the hardest times, like, we're preventing people from that learning experience. Like, they're not going to get their stuff together.
Well, I mean, you got to think about it. It even in just our own healing, when we learn, like, my learning was the most profound when my brother got killed. At that moment, it took me very deep into who am I? I mean, that infamous question everybody asks. Yeah. And that's through pain. And for whatever reason, whether you're a man or a woman, it seems like pain is our teacher. It's like, all right, you're not listening. You're not listening. It's like, all right, I'm going to beat you down, and here you go. And now are you listening? Because we're very raw when we're in that pain moment. And we're like very open. And sometimes that's the way to get through that learning. Some people don't do that, but I've seen majority of the situations where most people are in some type of pain in order to come up from that.
Yeah. I don't think it always has to be that case, or the case. That wasn't really a sentence. But sometimes it does. I mean, people financially in relationships, when it gets bad, they build themselves up. And really what happens is when you get hit with pain, it forces you to go inward, I feel like. It's like getting hit with a hammer and you're like, oh, then you're inward, right? Like, you're in your pain, you're focused inward. Right. It's hard to now. You can blame forever. I've seen people in some weird cases of denial to the point where they would be homeless and they'd still be blaming someone else, and they didn't have a drinking problem. Like, crazy levels of so they had to get hit so hard. I mean, basically the universe or life has been smacking them in the head until they take some self-responsibility at some point.
Yeah. So at what time, so you said that pain is not every other way. So the other way, I'm assuming, is like you seeking something else, or me seeking out something. That would be the other way. Or can you please elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, it'd be like going to healer after healer, or reading book after book, saying this book is going to save me. This teacher is going to save me. And that's not wrong. I'm not saying not to do it, but to be aware that you could be seeking something outside of you to fix your life. You're just looking for the thing that's going to fix it, when really maybe you just need to take care of yourself. You know, if you focus more on what you need to do in your life, it would unfold a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. So when we focus on, but that can also get, if you go after a seeker and you're seeking another help and you're seeking another help. I sometimes feel there's a point in time when you either are gonna you're gonna reach a wall, because the healers can only, once again, I feel that they're your guides to your healing. But if you're not paying attention, you could just keep going and going and going. I wonder if there's a way that cycle can be broken. Is it or I guess it's all individual, isn't it? It would be an individual actually recognizing that they're doing that.
Yeah. I think the job of a healer, and I heard this from Alan Watts, I was listening to it today, so it comes through, is that a job of a healer, a doctor, a psychologist, they're all on the same wavelength. The dietitian is to make sure things don't get too bad. To kind of get them to equilibrium so then they can help themselves. Your job isn't to save them. It's to get them to, like, if someone is homeless, like, yeah, we probably got to give them a place to sleep and some food, right? We got to get them at least there so they can help themselves. But we don't want to, like, give them $1 million because that's not going to help. That's like, it's the same thing emotionally. If you can boost people up a little bit, like, hey, I'm going to give you this plant medicine or prescription drug or whatever. I'm going to compliment you enough. You feel better. But at some point you got to do it yourself, but you got to get them to the middle way, the middle grounds, so they can do it. It's almost like someone that's so spiritual, and I've been there, like can't even like tie their shoes. Like we also have to get them into reality enough so they can help themselves, but then let them go so they can do it themselves. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's once again we come to the balance point. We have to find that balance, just like we talked in the last episode about finding the balance between masculine and feminine. That comes back to that balance. It's where because I know exactly what you mean. I got caught up in the very spiritual part of it that I wasn't focusing in the 3D world. And my thing is about integrating the 3D world because we're here, we're in this world. So if we're living in spirituality too much, we're not living in this world. And this is where our physical presence is at. So we have to find that balance of that. And coming with that balance, we also have to balance the life here with our spirituality so we can grow and understand that we are responsible for ourselves because we are here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're spiritually seeking more of that spirituality, but that seems to also have its unbalance. It's like at a certain point, you're seeking too much spirituality that maybe the ego is taking over and it's like, oh yeah, I reached this high point.
Right. It's like it would be like someone coming up to you and being like, man, I've done 8 ayahuasca ceremonies. How many have you done? And you're like, I've done 5. To me, that's the same as a businessman coming up being like, you know how many people, like money I've made $1 million. Oh, I've made $800,000. Like it's just one-upping, but with a new set of tools to one-up each other. And it's fine. I think that's a great thing about humans is that we want to get better. And
right.
Competition's healthy, but the ego can latch on to spirituality and just like twist it.
Yes, I've seen that many, many times where it's like, oh, I don't know if you ever seen the Samadhi movies. And if you look for Samadhi part, I'll send you the links, but Samadhi Part 1, if you're looking for it on YouTube. And in there, is it Samadhi Part 1 or Part 2? One of those. And it says the seeker of spirituality is always seeking. So as long as it's seeking, it will always be seeking. But why not just be? Because if you're being, you've gotten there. So the spiritual person that's always seeking and seeking and seeking, he or she will always be the seeker. Anyway, right. I'm kind of digressing to another subject here. I don't want to distract from that.
No, it's important because I've been that person. So,
me too.
And that's why I'm teaching people to get out of it. And it's so tricky. And you almost have to trick people into getting out of it because it's just how it is. And again, that's whatever tricking or helping or whatever word you want to use.
Yeah, but, whatever word, yeah.
Oh, it's so powerful. Like it can just take you over and you get tired. So I know when you're in chronic fatigue and spiritual people are tired all the time, I see it a lot. They sleep all the time. They don't have energy for anything. I'm like, well, because you're constantly in self-work. Like you are literally exhausting your system. Like I know me as a spiritual, I would go on vacation and then do spiritual work. Like, but I never just gave myself a vacation where I didn't have to do anything. It was ridiculous. Like, it was almost like, why don't you just go, everything became a spiritual process to the point where I never had just a recreational time.
Yes. I'm there with you because I recognize it because I was right there with you. It's like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go to this workshop. Oh, that's going to be a relaxing workshop. oh, that's gonna be a great ceremony. Oh, that's gonna be a great this. But it was all internal work. I mean, work and work and work. And I never realized that, wait a minute, it's like I'm getting caught up in all of this. And what about me? It's like just my fun part of it. I mean, I do enjoy spiritual events, don't get me wrong, but there's also other types of recreation that I want to expand my mind with too, not just spirituality. So to not be able to work on this 3D world, uh, I like to say we like to have some 3D fun, and
Yeah.
that's what I like. You know, whether it's video games, going to a movie, or watching TV or something. You know, that have a little bit of difference. That way, you can see the totality of our lives and the world with spirituality, not just see only spirituality. Because that's what makes us balanced and that's what makes us whole, I feel.
Yeah. And I think that's my life more and more important. And I think that's why I gravitate towards teachers, or I like listen to Joe Rogan podcasts and all these different things, because I want to learn from all different people and I'm always getting balance.
Right.
Like I was very drawn to science for a while and I wasn't listening to spiritual things, and it gave me balance. It was like, oh, like, and I think of even like people that were spiritual, or unless it's your profession, right? Like then obviously you're going to like study it more and it's different. But people go to church or go to synagogue or go to the Buddhist temple, but then they would go work their jobs and they didn't bring that in. They're like, I'm doing business now. Like this isn't where but now it's all blending, which I think is amazing.
Yes.
But at the same time, like if I'm going to like paint, I got to learn about painting. Like if I'm just meditating all day and I never learn to paint, like I'm not going to learn anything. Like, and that's not spiritual per se, but it's just, you got to learn a skill set too. Also, even Jesus was a carpenter. Like,
yeah, you know, you brought up painting. It's really cool because I went to this lady that was teaching. She calls it artist journeying, and she teaches you the techniques, and she's kind of developing her own little technique. But basically, what it is you go and paint, and you paint with just your spirit. No big structure. Only enough to know about the paint. So she would educate us, you know, use this type of brush to do this kind of thing, or use this type of paint to do that, or, you know, do this. So she would give us some general structure about how to use the tools. But then when it got to the actual activity, she would let us be free and no, don't create these things. No, don't. She wouldn't tell us that. She would say, just paint what you feel. And that was one of the most awesome painting experiences for me that I've ever had. Plus, it also created some beautiful work because what I was creating had so much more meaning than if I had just painted a house.
Right.
I feel that was the perfect example of mixing the two worlds together.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you want to have fun doing it, and that's the masculine feminine easily too. Like it's like you need that, but you need to learn how to paint.
Right.
Who's just in the spiritual, that's fine. And I'm getting rebalanced. So you got to learn what you do. Like I like writing, and I'm getting, you know, from my, you know, partner Kat, like she's a writer, and I got to go learn how you write a story. Like I can't just channel the writing. Like that's great for a while, but like, and then I want to learn skills around it. Like, oh, okay, this is how you form structure, and this is how you create, you know. It's having both of the balance between, for me, juggling taught me that. It was that I like doing free flow juggling.
Oh, that's cool.
I need to learn skills and be disciplined to improve my juggling. And I've seen jugglers in the spiritual realm and, you know, bless them. But I was trying to get them to be more disciplined because they're not getting much better. Like they're just stuck in this flow state. And I'm like, well, that's boring. Like you're missing the joy of the discipline of learning the new trick. Like you've got to have balance in it. And it depends what you want out of it too. Like if you want to be a professional juggler, obviously you have to practice more discipline than someone that's just having fun. Like, but you have to have both. And to me, the discipline and the structure is the, you know, the masculine, and then the openness is the feminine. So how do you, you know, have that balance? And to me, that self-responsibility is part of that. You know, that's the discipline, and that's the getting it done and all that.
Yeah, the self-discipline also is a big one. For me, it was now this is like an interesting story. I love talking in stories. I'm very much like that. So when I moved into my condo, I had just gotten divorced. My brother had gotten killed. A friend of mine passed away. There was oh man, just anyway, long story.
Sure.
But that I came to my house and I had all these kind of things laying all over the place, boxes and boxes of stuff that were, it wasn't that I couldn't move around, but they were just all over the place. I never unpacked.
Mm.
And I was stuck in that emotion, you know, I hadn't, and I was blaming that I didn't have any self-discipline. It's like, oh man, I don't have any self-discipline here. And so I hired a professional organizer at that time. And luckily this was also what I call her like a spiritual organizer, because she came in, and as we were going through the things in my boxes, she was going, Mario, what is it about this that you want to keep? And she would have me go into it. And I didn't now I realize it, but back then I didn't realize how much the things I was holding on to were my emotions.
Mm.
And I was blaming self-discipline, and really I wasn't taking responsibility for my own emotions. And as I started clearing a lot of those emotions, wow, it's like all this stuff, it's like I don't get attached to stuff now. It's like, I've had this cable for 10 years. It's like, why in the world do I need that? I go recycle that, you know? So,
right.
So once I learned to take responsibility for those emotions and actually realizing it, now I look at stuff very different. It's like, oh man, it's like, what does that stuff is saying about me? And sometimes there's an emotional connection, and sometimes it is just laziness. It's like, I just don't want to deal with it. But it was nice to see that difference. And I was beating myself up going, it's like, oh man, you're not disciplined enough. And there I was, you know, just blaming myself about everything. Well, and when, yes, it was me, but yet it was things that I wasn't seeing. So that's, I think, another part of self-responsibility, knowing that there are unseen things, when maybe if you don't want to deal with something, maybe there's something deeper in there. That's what I believe.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. How would you say to tap into those deeper parts? Like, how do you tap into those deeper parts?
To me, I'm a big meditator. And I know some people are not fans of meditation, but I like to grab the piece, or if it's a box, just kind of sit with the box, and I sit there with the box and look at it. And then I take 3 deep breaths and then just kind of look at it. And then at a certain point for me, I get an emotion. Or the other route that I take, if I'm not in a meditating mood, is I look at it and I question it. It's like, what is this about?
Mm.
And 9 times out of 10, that first answer in your brain, it's what it is. But because I caught myself, because that's where the ego kind of gets in the way. It's like, it possibly can't be that. It's not that. And I used to dismiss all of that. So if you can go for the first answer, even as stupid as it sounds, like one time, I can't remember what it was, but I remember the emotion about it. It was a very happy memory of my childhood. And I looked at it, well, every time I look at it, it reminds me of that. It's like, well, why do you need that thing to remind you of that? Why, you already have it in you. Why don't you just tap into it?
Mm.
Like, oh yeah. Like, all right, so I don't need that anymore. It's like, all right, boom, and it was put in the trash.
Right. Yeah.
So there you go. But granted, you know, I don't throw all my memories away like that. It's like there are some precious things that I keep, like pictures. There's certain pictures that I have. I'm not kidding you, about 5 or 6 drawers of pictures. And I was keeping them all because they brought me a memory that I wanted to keep for a long time. And then I started realizing I was keeping multiple pictures for the same memory. And I go, no, which one out of all of these pictures do I enjoy to bring me back that memory? So then I would pick the one that I liked the most, and all the others would be, I'd give them to my mom, my sister, or whoever wanted them. If not, then I would just kind of shred them or do whatever. But that's some of the ways I deal with stuff.
Yeah. No, and I totally agree with the physical. So from a psychology standpoint, which I love because it's a grounded version of like spirituality, where there's two ways to like heal, right? You can go into the emotions, and I agree with that. I meditate, and I feel like sitting with myself is a great way to build self-responsibility, right? Because then I got to look at myself. Mm-hmm. Really, I take away everything around me, and I got to look at myself, and that really helps. But also you can do the physical to heal the emotional. So like, say you lift your head up, you feel happier. If you smile, yes, you feel happier. So you can go physical to feel emotional, and you can go emotional to feel physical, right? They're both it. And sometimes a depressed person just needs to go on a walk. Like you just need to like kick them out of the house and make them go on a walk, and that's how they feel better. Like that, that works, right? You just
yes, it does.
You give them something physical, right? Or so it's both sides, and using both to our benefits and not resisting one. Because I feel like in spirituality, it's always everything's internal. I'm like, yeah, but if you eat a healthier meal, like you're gonna feel better. Like I don't, you can eat unhealthy and feel fine, but I guarantee you, if I gave you a healthier diet, you'd sleep better. Like
that's very true.
No matter what internal work you do, if you're doing cocaine all week, meditate 2 hours a day, you're still gonna feel like crap.
Somebody on cocaine, good luck them meditating. I don't know if by what I hear, it's like cocaine is one of those that kind of keeps you pretty wired. So
yeah, it's not a. Yeah, I wouldn't do. But I mean, just that's.
I know what you mean, though.
Yes, it does hype people up for sure. But meditation can get them out of the cocaine use and keep them, from using that drug. However, they got to stop using the drug too. They got to just take physical, disciplined action and say no. That's. But the meditation, I think, helps you make better decisions. But you can't also just go, I meditated, so I'm gonna go do this, and not take responsibility for my actions, which can be a spiritual trap. And I've gotten caught in that. I'm like, I am responsible for any of my actions. Well, yeah, because you realize everything's meaningless and there's parallel realities, and you're like, oh, whatever, this means nothing. But that doesn't even feel good to not be self-responsible. You feel like crap.
Yeah, because you get to the point, it's like, well, I didn't do it in this universe, but I know I did it on another universe over there, so I don't have to worry about it. It already happened.
Right.
Yeah, I know what you mean on that one. The other part about what you're saying, though, it's the meditating. To me, the meditating, all it is putting a mirror to yourself. And if you're willing to listen, if you're willing to look at that mirror, you'll get a lot out of it. I did that Vipassana for 10-day meditation.
Yeah.
10 hours a day. Oh, man, having no phone, having no TV, no journaling, no nothing. It was one of the most profound experiences I've ever had. And there is where I learned that I was having a lot of self-guilt about my brother, because I did it after my brother and everything. Mm-hmm. And I learned where I was taking responsibility for my brother's death. It's like, oh man, it's like why am I living and he's dead? Survivor's remorse, I think is what you call it.
Yeah.
So I was like taking all that and feeling guilty about it. So I was feeling down. I was at a really bad point in my life at that time too. And that was after the whole ordeal of moving out and getting a divorce and everything. So, I mean, there was still so many phases of that, and it's pretty crazy. But I learned to make my happiness my responsibility also.
Right. Yeah, and that's, to me, your pain and your emotions is your responsibility to deal with. Yeah. It doesn't matter who did it. You're responsible for the emotional reaction. And it doesn't mean the other person not being a jerk or an a-hole and they're not a fun person to be around. But that also takes self-responsibility. Like, if you're annoyed with your partner, and I've been there 1,000 times, you got to take self-responsibility to take space and see what you want. I mean, it's And then usually it's fine because you took a self-responsibility for your anger. But if you're like,
Mm-hmm.
they're causing me to be angry, it's just a cycle that's just unbearable. And I think as men, we get trapped in that, especially with women. Well, you know, all women just like, jerks. And, if I had more money, they like me. And it's like, oh, you're not taking self-responsibility. Like, I don't want to be around you saying that. So no wonder the women don't. Like, this is the energy you're putting off.
Yeah,
So,
it's funny because I used to think that way. I used to go because I'm known as the nice guy. And it's like,
yeah.
oh, so you're the nice guy, and I had this illusion that, oh well, women don't want a nice guy. They want this macho, sexist type guy. So I had all this and put in a nice little box, and this is the way my life is. And tearing down that box was one of the best feelings I've ever had.
Yeah, because it's not taking self-responsibility. Like, oh, maybe it's something about me or my life that women aren't attracted to, or maybe it's this energy I'm putting out. You're not blaming the women or the other people. You're putting on yourself, and there might be truth to it, but again, you can't control that. So then you're like,
Right.
well, let me find the one woman that, or however many you want to date, that doesn't care about that. Because I know I'm not like I'm at health. Well, maybe, you got to get healthier. It doesn't mean you have to be a big macho guy, but I would want to date someone that's healthy or whatever it is, right? Like, you got to take
Right.
responsibility for you, and then someone's going to see that and be like, oh, I want that too. Which
Yeah.
is interesting.
Yeah. And I hope the people that are listening, hope that we're not, this is like hardcore inner core work. I mean, it will be, to me, it was a challenge. I mean, it wasn't like an easy thing. So it requires some follow through. It requires some work, whether it's shamanic, a therapist, a coach, or sound ceremony or journaling or whatever it is out there. But if you start to practice like that, you'll be amazed. And I would say within a couple of months, you'll start, even within a month, I think you'll start seeing a difference if you continuously keep that practice, whatever it is. But
Yeah.
it is being very honest with yourself. It's like, okay, I'm this way. And don't have that pity on yourself. Go, love that part about yourself, because you hear in all the spiritual circles about love and love and love. And everybody talks about loving all the niceties. My thing is, and my big thing is, I should re-emphasize that, is that you have to love every part of who you are, not just the nice features, nice personality features. You also gotta love, if you're a messy eater, if you're somebody that has a messy house, or if you don't like the way this looks on you or that. I mean, you have to love that entire essence. Or if there's a personality trait that you don't like about yourself, you have to love the whole totality. That's the work. That's loving yourself makes you stronger. And that's where some things become more challenging, because it is putting that mirror to yourself and looking at it and going, you know what? And this is what happened to me at Vipassana. I looked in the mirror and I said, for the first time in my life, I love myself entirely. And it was beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, it would be, as Buddha did, he looked at the demons when he was meditating. He saw them. And that's all it takes, I think, I would say this as a therapist, I still believe it, like, awareness is 90% of the battle. Like, once you're aware, everything tends to fix itself. It doesn't mean it's not going to take work or doing something. But once an addict says, I'm an addict and I have an issue, they tend to get better. It might take 5 years of going to rehab and getting out, but now they can't go back. But it's the denial that keeps it steady. It's going, oh, this is not there. And it doesn't even mean you have to change it. I was hearing something today when someone goes like, I'm a playboy, I love lots of women, and I like to drink. Like, they're honest. Like, and yeah, they might not change it, but they're not going, I don't do that, and then doing it. Like, that's even worse. Like, no one respects that. But if someone's just like, yeah, like, I'm this, then you're like, oh, it's easier. Like, I would see this, and this is men or like as spiritual men, like being like, I just respect women and I don't see them as physical beings. And I'm just like, I respect women too, but I really like the woman's body, and I like I'm not gonna lie to you and pretend like that's not the case, because that's ridiculous. Like
That'd
I
be
don't.
lying to yourself, though. I mean, that is a total lie like that. I mean, we're people here in the 3D world. It's what I always tell. We're humans having we're souls having a human experience, and I
Right.
think that order is very important. We're a soul having a human experience. How can we deny that human experience? That'd be denying part of what we came down here for. You're being
Right.
unfair to your own soul for doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I hear even with health, and they might just be this belief, but some people be like, I can just think whatever I want about food and then it works out. And I'm like, that's great, but you also are on the human plane, and there is like some science
Yeah.
behind eating, and like it is effective. Like you might be able to counteract some of that. And yes, I mean, I think you can to a point. But if you know that Skittles aren't good for you, and I just ate Skittles, but I knew what I was doing. I was honest. Like, this is something I
Mhm.
like from childhood. I'm eating this now. I'm not going to do it for a while, but I know this isn't healthy. Like, and then I didn't do it again because I wasn't I was just honest. Like, this is what I'm
Yeah.
doing. It wasn't like I'm eating Skittles, but somehow I'm a magical being and my body isn't affected by this sugar. Like, it is. Like, there's chemicals in your body and things are happening. Like, and that's where spirituality goes off the deep end to me, is when people can believe that and might work. You can also be too far on the health side, and then you need to go back into balance. So you need
Right.
to enjoy yourself, but you got to have a middle ground always. There's a balance there somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're getting down to what I hear about a lot. It's like we create our own reality, and I do believe that. It's just a matter of how you're living your reality. I think is the other part about it. It's creating our reality. It doesn't, to me at least, it doesn't mean that it's like poof, it's there. It means that we are working with the universe to create what we are looking for. So, for example, if I wanted to be healthier, I'm creating my reality to be healthier, and as I do that, my human body and my soul will interact with each other to get me there. That's the way I see creating reality, because
Right.
I have a feeling some spiritual people are very much about creating the reality. Oh, look, boom, and it's there. No, it doesn't work that way. At least to me, it doesn't work that way.
Well, I mean, why? I always said the question. I used to be that way too. I want instant manifestation, and I want to just be able to create whatever I want. Lately, I've been like, I kind of like that I don't have what I want. Then I have something to do. Like, if I had everything I wanted, I have nothing to do. And maybe that's my ego, people say, but I'm also like, it's. And I asked myself this question, like, what would happen? Because if I had everything I wanted, and I thought about it, I was like,
Yep.
I would do this. There would always be another thing. So I was like, okay, that's cool, but like, what if I enjoyed the unfolding of this? What if I enjoyed the desire and the dreaming? I channeled something today, and I was like, and the answer came is like, if you had everything you wanted, you wouldn't be able to desire or dream about what you wanted. If you just got everything, then
Mhm.
you wouldn't be able to dream. And isn't dreaming
Right.
fun? Like, you get to dream. But if you didn't, if I got to be a teacher, right, spiritual teacher tomorrow, and I got everything I
Mhm.
wanted, I wouldn't get the pleasure of dreaming of it and moving towards it. The most rewarding things in life, I go back to juggling because to me, it's like my martial arts. If I just got to be a 5-ball juggler instantaneously, that would have stunk. It would have been boring. I would have dropped it and went and did something else. Because there would have been no progression. There would have been no steps to take. And I think people want to ignore the steps. Spiritual people want things instantly. And I've done this. And you become just jumpers and nothing ever gets done because you're not enjoying learning the skill
Mhm.
of, of the thing. Enjoying the frustrations and it being hard and like all those different things, whatever that is. It's the balance of allowing but also being persistent.
Well, it's also back to the word, it's self-responsibility for acquiring. If you want better, if you want to juggle better, then work. It does require some work because we are on this physical presence. So it does require some self-responsibility of that too. The physical act of going and practicing, that's responsibility for it. And I don't know. Personally, I think it's cool that you juggle, but I don't juggle. But
I love it. I like throwing balls when I was a kid off walls, so it's like it's perfect. It's like a disciplined version of what I did, anyways. But it's taught me a lot, and that's to me is like learning something teaches you more than anything. And what is that discipline that you want to pick up, or that skill? And it's not even about it's not about now that I can juggle 5 balls. And I'm like, that wasn't the fun part. It was getting there. Once I got there, then I want to learn another trick. It doesn't end. It's the process of getting there. And I had an intention and a goal. That was cool. And then I got there and I was like, okay, now what's the next one? It's cool to enjoy it, but it doesn't last very long.
Yeah. Well, we are getting close to our usual time. I think we might have gone. I don't know. We're trying to keep them within 45 minutes to an hour. I don't know. Let's go ahead and wrap this up, and then I love ending with the juggling story. So that was really cool. So
that works.
Because it works. I mean, it's very true. Learning does give you more to achieve. I mean, I don't know. I just like the way you said that. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's why something disciplined for a child is so important. Like whatever that is, juggling, martial arts, sports, dancing, it doesn't matter. I'm not pigeonholing it, but learning something is so important. Doing something new, like keeping that energy flowing. That's the enjoyment of life.
Yes.
We think it's having the things, but it's really learning and getting there. You know, when it comes to that manifestation, or it comes to exercising or whatever, right? I know I get way more done when I don't worry about the end goal. I set it and then I let it go, and then I just enjoy every moment of it. You know?
Yeah. So definitely I guess let's make a challenge for everybody to take one thing to learn to help their own selves in their spiritual sense and in their human world, because we are humans after all.
Right. Yeah. Something, that you can see is really cool. That you can create or learn.
Well, thank you, Daniel. It's always a pleasure us talking together, and I'm looking forward for next week to get this going.
Me too. Well, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.